Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69 Grandparent, or maybe you stumble upon one at a flea market or in your change. Most of the time, you expect to see modern pennies, shiny or dull, that are barely worth more than their face value. But suddenly, one coin stands out. It's darker, older, with the words 1 cent framed by two elegant stalks of wheat on the back, and on the front, a familiar face, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln. You look closer at the date, and it reads 1936. And just below that date, there's a tiny mint mark that might not seem important at first glance. But let me tell you something, that tiny mark could be the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a coin worth a staggering fortune. This is the story of the 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a mint mark, a coin that carries history, rarity, and in some cases, an unbelievable value. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series is one of the most beloved and collected coins in American history. First introduced in 1909, it was designed to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was the first time a U.S. coin featured a real person instead of a symbolic figure, and it instantly captured the hearts of the American public. The reverse side carried two wheat stalks, symbolizing prosperity, strength, and the agricultural backbone of the nation. These coins circulated widely for decades, but as with all things, some years and some mint marks produced coins that became treasures far greater than their face value. One such year is 1936. Now, 1936 was an interesting time in American history. The nation was still working its way out of the Great Depression. Every penny truly mattered in daily life. Coins from this era weren't just currency, they represented survival, resilience, and the small but steady steps people took to rebuild their lives. That's why finding a 1936 wheat penny today isn't just about holding a piece of copper. It's about holding a piece of America's story, a tiny reminder of the strength and perseverance of an entire generation. But why is the mint mark so important? The mint mark tells us where the coin was struck. In 1936, Lincoln Wheat Pennies were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins had no mint mark, Denver coins had a small D below the date, and San Francisco coins carried an S. To collectors, the presence and type of mint mark can make a huge difference in value. Coins from different mints often had varying production numbers, and some were produced in smaller quantities, making them more scarce and therefore more desirable. Add to that the possibility of errors or unique conditions, and suddenly a simple copper penny becomes an object of immense value. Think about how these coins were used back in the 1930s. They passed through countless hands, paid for bread, milk, newspapers, and small daily essentials. Because of this, most 1936 pennies you'll find are heavily worn, with faded details and dull surfaces. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is rare because very few were set aside or saved at the time. And when collectors see a coin that survived nearly 90 years with its shine, sharp detail, and original luster intact, they know they're looking at something extraordinary. Then there's the fascinating world of mint errors. Imagine a coin struck slightly off-center, or one with a double date where the numbers appear twice. These errors weren't intended, but they slipped out of the mint and into circulation, and today, they're considered treasures by collectors. A 1936 wheat penny with a double die error, or a unique repunched mint mark, can fetch staggering amounts of money because of its rarity and demand. Collectors are also drawn to the wheat penny for sentimental reasons. It's a coin many people remember from childhood, often found in jars, piggy banks, or handed down through generations. Holding one is like holding a memory, a small piece of history that connects families across time. And when you realize that one of those coins might not just be sentimental, but also extremely valuable, it adds an entirely new layer of excitement. So here's the incredible part. While most 1936 wheat pennies are worth a modest amount to collectors depending on their condition and mint mark, the rarest and finest examples, preserved in perfect shape and sought after by passionate collectors, have reached astonishing heights in value. In fact, one such 1936 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a mint mark has been valued at an unbelievable $97,000. Yes, a single penny, a coin that once bought a newspaper or a piece of candy during the Great Depression, today could be worth $97,000. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's why it pays to look closely at every coin you come across. You never know when a simple penny from 1936 could turn out to be a life-changing discovery. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has always been one of the most beloved coins in the history of United States coinage, and among the many dates that collectors search for, the 1937 Wheat Penny with its mint mark has an incredible story that makes it stand out. When we talk about old coins, we usually imagine that only gold or silver pieces can be truly valuable, but this simple copper coin proves that sometimes the smallest denomination can hold the greatest surprises. The year 1937 was a fascinating time in American history. The nation was still recovering from the Great Depression, and even though 1 cent might not sound like much today, back then it could actually buy you something meaningful. People carried these little coins every day in their pockets, often without realizing that decades later, some of them would become highly sought-after treasures. The Lincoln cent itself had been in circulation since 1909, designed by Victor David Brenner to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. By 1937, it had already become a familiar face in the daily lives of Americans. The obverse of the coin features the well-known profile of President Abraham Lincoln, a design that has remained nearly unchanged for over a century. On the reverse, you'll find the words, 1 cent, framed by 2 stalks of wheat, giving this coin its popular name, the Wheat Penny. Above it, the phrase, e pluribus unum, stands proudly, and together, these elements represent more than just money, they reflect American history, artistry, and pride. Now, what makes the 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny with mint mark special? First, it's important to know that this coin was struck at more than one mint facility. You can find them with no mint mark at all, meaning they were minted in Philadelphia, with a D indicating Denver, or with an S indicating San Francisco. To collectors, these tiny letters make a world of difference, because some mint marks are rarer than others. For example, the Denver and San Francisco issues were produced in smaller numbers compared to Philadelphia, so those carry additional value in higher grades. Collectors are always on the lookout for variations in condition. A 1937 penny that's been heavily used in circulation may only be worth a few cents or a couple of dollars, but when you find one in pristine condition, with its original luster, sharp details, and minimal wear, its value can skyrocket. This is why grading matters so much. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with mint state grades, from MS 60 to MS 70, being the most valuable. An uncirculated 1937 penny with a strong strike and original red copper color can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but there is more to this story. The 1937 wheat penny also has known errors and varieties that make it even more fascinating to collectors. Some of the most notable are double dies, repunched mint marks, and striking errors. A double die is when part of the design is accidentally struck twice, causing visible doubling on the lettering or the numbers in the date. Repunched mint marks occur when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, leaving a slightly shifted or shadow-like impression. These small details, often invisible to the untrained eye, can make a coin worth far more than a standard example. Imagine holding a handful of pennies in your palm, each one looking nearly identical. To the average person, they're just pocket change. But to a collector who knows what to look for, one of those pennies could be a hidden treasure worth thousands. That's why searching through your change or old coin jars is such an exciting hobby. It's like playing a game of chance with history. The 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny continues to attract the attention of numismatists because it combines historical significance, rarity in certain mint mark varieties, and the possibility of valuable error coins. People who specialize in wheat pennies know that this particular year stands out for its balance of availability and the chance of striking it rich with the right specimen. So, how valuable can one of these coins actually be? While common examples might only sell for a few dollars, the true gems, the coins preserved in top condition with the right mint mark and possibly a rare error, are the ones that collectors are willing to pay enormous amounts for at auction. Stories of collectors bidding fiercely for the finest known examples are not unusual, and some have made headlines when these tiny copper coins sold for prices most people would never believe. And here is the most astonishing part of it all. Among these 1937 wheat pennies, one example in exceptional condition with a desirable mint mark was sold for an incredible amount, proving just how powerful the demand for rare coins can be. Believe it or not, the value of such a coin reached $100,000 in words, making it one of the most remarkable sales for a Lincoln cent from that era. Today, workers, farmers, and families during one of the most transformative times in American history. It's a coin that many people overlook, yet it carries a legacy that connects the Great Depression era to the years leading into World War II. I'm talking about the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1939. At first glance, it may look like just another old penny, worn copper, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and 2 wheat stalks on the back. But what makes this coin truly fascinating is not just its design, but the story it tells and the hidden value it can hold for collectors and treasure hunters alike. The 1939 Lincoln Wheat Penny comes from a time when America was slowly climbing out of the hardships of the Great Depression. Families were frugal, every cent counted, and coins like this were essential in daily life. From paying for a loaf of bread to dropping into a savings jar for the week, pennies were in constant circulation. Yet, even though millions of these coins were minted, certain varieties and mint marks have turned the 1939 wheat penny into one of the most desirable pieces for collectors. Now let's talk about mint marks. Mint marks are those small letters you'll find beneath the date on Lincoln pennies, and they tell us where the coin was made. In 1939, the coins were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you see no mint mark, that's the Philadelphia penny. A small D represents Denver, and an S represents San Francisco. While all three were struck in large numbers, collectors always pay close attention to the San Francisco and Denver varieties, especially when they are found in pristine condition. Why is this coin so valuable? The answer lies in rarity, condition, and demand. Although millions were minted, most pennies from this era were used heavily, tossed into pockets, purses, and cash registers until they became worn down. Finding one today with sharp details, a bright luster, and minimal signs of wear is a true challenge. Collectors call these mint state coins, and that's where the big money comes into play. A simple 1939 penny you pull out of an old jar might only be worth a few cents or a couple of dollars. But if you happen to stumble upon one that has been well preserved, with clean surfaces and brilliant shine, you could be looking at something extraordinary. And that's not all, errors also play a role. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes happened, resulting in double dies, off-center strikes, or coins with weak details. These minting errors are like hidden gems, often commanding high prices at auctions. A 1939 penny with a doubling error on the date or the lettering could transform a small copper coin into a treasure worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors love the Lincoln Wheat series because it is not just a coin, it is a journey through American history. Starting from 1909 with the first wheat penny, these coins honor President Abraham Lincoln, a symbol of freedom and unity. The wheat reverse, with its simple yet bold design, represents prosperity and growth. By 1939, this design had been in circulation for 3 decades, and it continued to capture the spirit of the nation at that time. Now, imagine coming across one of these coins in remarkable condition, untouched by decades of circulation, preserved in a way that allows us to see every fine detail as if it just left the mint. That's when values skyrocket. Collectors are willing to pay incredible amounts for examples that meet this high standard, especially when they carry the scarcer mint marks. The thrill of coin collecting lies in the possibility that something so ordinary, something as small as a penny, could hold a secret fortune. Many people unknowingly have jars or boxes filled with wheat pennies passed down through generations. Hidden in those collections might be a 1939 mint mark penny that could change the way you look at pocket change forever. Today, through countless hands, exchanged in corner stores, tucked into pockets, and perhaps even saved by families during uncertain times. This is not just any coin, it's the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1942, a coin that carries with it a fascinating story of history, survival, and hidden value. At first glance, it may look simple, just another old penny, but when you take a closer look at its details, its background, and its rarity, you'll quickly realize why collectors today hunt for it with such passion. The year 1942 was an unforgettable time in American history. The world was at war, and the United States had just entered World War II after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The country was mobilizing, resources were scarce, and every part of life was touched by the war effort. Even coinage was influenced by these events. The government was planning changes to metals used in coin production, preparing for the steel cents that would appear in 1943. But in 1942, pennies were still being struck in copper, and those coins became symbols of resilience and everyday life during turbulent times. The design of the Lincoln Wheat Penny is one of the most recognizable in American coinage. On the front, you have the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a president remembered for strength, leadership, and unity. On the back, 2 stalks of wheat frame the words, 1 cent, representing prosperity and growth. For decades, this design was carried in the pockets of millions of Americans, and by 1942, the Lincoln Wheat Penny had already become a familiar part of daily commerce. But what truly captures collectors' attention are the mint marks. If you look just below the date on the front of the coin, you'll see either no mint mark, a small d, or an S. No mint mark means it was minted in Philadelphia, D indicates Denver, and an S represents San Francisco. While all of these mints produced pennies in 1942, collectors know that some are scarcer, and in higher grades, they can be incredibly valuable. The San Francisco and Denver mint marks are especially popular with numismatists because they were made in smaller quantities compared to Philadelphia. The beauty of collecting coins like the 1942 wheat penny is that their value can vary so much depending on condition. Most of these pennies were heavily circulated during the war years. People used them to buy food, gas, and everyday necessities. Because of this, many surviving coins today are worn down and worth only a modest amount. But if you come across a coin that has been carefully preserved, sharp details, clear lettering, original luster, and very little wear, that's when the magic happens. Collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for these high-quality examples. Errors also add another layer of excitement. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes occurred. A double die, where the design is stamped twice, can create a coin that looks unique and rare. Off-center strikes or coins with weak details also increase the value because they stand out as one of a kind. These error coins become the jewels of a collection, especially when they're tied to a year as significant as 1942. Another reason the 1942 wheat penny is so treasured is its connection to the wartime period. This was the last year pennies were made with the traditional copper composition before the dramatic shift to steel in 1943. That makes the 1942 penny not just another coin but a historical marker, a bridge between 2 eras of American coinage. It represents the final chapter of the traditional copper wheat pennies before the government's desperate need for resources changed the composition. Think for a moment about the journey of a single 1942 penny. It could have been handed to a soldier's family member, used to buy rationed goods, or dropped into a savings jar by a child dreaming of a better tomorrow. Over decades, it might have been forgotten in an attic, tucked into a collection, or mixed with other coins in circulation. And then, after all these years, someone might discover it again, shiny, rare, and valuable. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the possibility that something as ordinary as a penny can hold extraordinary value. For collectors today, searching for the 1942 wheat penny with a mint mark is like searching for buried treasure. Most are worth modest amounts, but the rare ones, the coins in stunning condition, with sharp strikes and perhaps even a unique error, are the true prizes. These are the coins that light up auctions, capturing attention and fetching prices that make headlines. Today, coins so ordinary at first glance, yet capable of holding a secret fortune in the palm of your hand. The United States of America 1 cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1952 with its mint mark is one of those hidden treasures of American coinage history. People across the country carry pennies every single day, often ignoring them, tossing them in jars, or letting them roll under car seats. But what if one of those tiny coins you brushed aside was worth thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? That is the fascinating world we are stepping into today. Now, the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny may look familiar to anyone who has held a penny from the mid-20th century. It bears the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to mark the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1952, the wheat penny had already been in circulation for over 4 decades, but collectors began to notice that not all of these coins were created equal. Some bore tiny mint marks just below the date, indicating whether they were struck in Philadelphia with no mark, in Denver with a D, or in San Francisco with an S. These little letters may seem insignificant, but to coin collectors they open the door to rarity, errors, and incredible value. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest quantity, which makes those coins relatively common. But when we shift our focus to the Denver and San Francisco mint marks, suddenly the field becomes more exciting. Lower mintages, striking quality differences, and unusual die varieties mean that some 1952 wheat pennies from these locations can fetch prices that leave people speechless. Imagine pulling a worn penny from your grandfather's old coin jar, dusting it off, and realizing it holds a mint mark that transforms it from an everyday cent into a collectible gem worth a fortune. Another detail that excites collectors is the condition of the coin. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state, with those preserved in pristine condition commanding the highest premiums. A 1952 wheat penny with sharp details, no scratches, and vibrant original luster is a completely different story than one that has been beaten up in circulation. Mint state examples are what truly drive up auction records, and when those mint marks align with rare varieties, values soar, but condition isn't the only factor. Errors play a huge role in the desirability of 1952 wheat pennies. Double die obverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and even clipped planchets can turn a penny into a once-in-a-lifetime find. These errors weren't intentional, but they slipped through the minting process unnoticed, creating unique anomalies. Collectors chase after these coins because they represent something rare and special, an accident of history frozen in copper. Each error has its own story, and together they make the 1952 wheat penny a thrilling series to collect. What makes the Lincoln Wheat Penny series even more beloved is the nostalgia it carries. These coins circulated widely during a time when America was transitioning from the hardships of World War II into the booming 1950s. Think about it, in 1952, families were buying new cars, televisions were beginning to dominate living rooms, and children could still purchase candy for a penny at the corner store. Holding a wheat penny from that era is like holding a tiny time machine, a piece of American life that connects us with our past. That is why even casual collectors cherish these coins. It's not just about the money, but about the story each coin tells. However, when we do talk about money, the numbers are staggering. While most 1952 wheat pennies are only worth a few cents or a couple of dollars depending on condition, the rarest examples with mint marks, top-grade preservation, and unique errors have shocked the coin world with their auction prices. These coins are not just metal, they are investments, treasures, and dreams rolled into one. And when one of these elusive examples crosses the auction block, it leaves collectors and historians alike amazed at just how valuable a simple 1-cent coin can be. So, if you happen to have a small stash of wheat pennies tucked away in a jar, a drawer, or a family collection, it's time to give those coins a closer look. Flip them over, check the dates, search for those mint marks, and pay attention to the tiniest of details. Who knows? You might just discover that one of your old pennies is hiding an incredible surprise, and here's the truly jaw-dropping part. Among the most outstanding finds of the 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny with a mint mark, there exists an example that shocked collectors and made headlines in the coin world. This little copper coin, no bigger than your fingertip, managed to achieve a staggering value of $81,000. Yes, you heard that right, $81,000 for a penny that most people would walk right past on the sidewalk.